Hello and welcome to SOCH CCJ 3020 Data Analysis. In this class we're going to be looking at a lot of different kinds of data, and we're going to be doing it in Excel. Now I tend to like to illustrate principles in statistics and data analysis using examples. In this case I have a simple example of a very small data set with the names and characteristics of three of my favorite actors, and you're going to be asked in the assignment, on the very first assignment, to do something similar here. We can call this a data matrix, and I'll explain why that is. A data matrix contains, it consists of cases in the rows. In this case, each actor is a separate case, and variables in the columns, I should say. The variables in this case are different attributes of the actors. So in this case you have their first name, last name, birth year, race, gender, an example of a film they were in, and a memorable line of dialogue that they stated in that film. So in this case, again, the actors are the cases, and the variables are the attributes of the actors. Okay, and so cases and variables together form a data matrix, and Excel is intuitive when you're talking about matrices. Whenever you load up Excel, you basically see is that this big matrix. One really important thing you should know is that each of these cells here has an address. By an address I mean basically a symbol that allows you to tell where it is. So in this case, I'm taking an example. This cell here, the one that contains the name De Niro, is cell B2, and you can see that up here. It lists the address in this box up here. What does that mean? Well, it's going to be really helpful as we move forward. Just to give you a little example, if I come down here and I press equals B2, Excel highlights cell B2, and I press enter, and then it gives me what's in the cell B2. That's a simple kind of still example, but you'll see that it becomes very useful that you can refer to cells by their addresses as you go along. Okay, now once you understand cells have addresses and that the variables are in the columns and the cases are in the rows, another thing you know about Excel is that formatting is pretty easy to do. So in this case, for example, some of these quotes I was copying and pasting from the web, and you can see they're in different formats. Like this seems to be Times New Roman or whatever. This is some other format. If I wanted to make it a little cleaner, I can come over to the home menu here and put everything in the same format by just highlighting everything here. An easier way to do that actually would be to click this cell up here on the upper left hand corner. If I go like that, and it highlights everything, and then I can choose one format that I want, and it should put everything in the same format. Yes. Okay. You can also, make things larger. Okay. All kinds of things. I can also change the width of these columns. I come up here and align the cursor in between, and I can make them larger or smaller. If you make them real small, you can see that the text goes away temporarily, because you can always fix that. If I want to make all the columns the same width, I can highlight all of them and then just move one, and they'll all become the same width. Probably don't want to do that in this case, but an important rule to remember with formatting is that even when the text disappears, it doesn't really go away. A lot of times when people, for example, you have a number here, this is the year, if I go like that, make that really small, you can see just shows these hatch marks, but actually that's just because it can't show the year faithfully. So if you make it larger, it shows up again. The numbers don't actually go away. Now, a couple other things to know about Excel, one of which I've already sort of introduced. One is, this is the formula idea. The idea of the formula is anytime I put an equal sign in any cell, it starts the formula. And formulas can be, adding up numbers, so it can be like, it's completely irrelevant to the data, but let's say I have 3 and 4, and I want to add them together. I can say equals, and then I can highlight one plus the other, and it shows the addresses. Enter, it gives me 7. Formula shows up there. There's just one thing to know is whenever you put an equal sign in any cell in the data matrix, it starts something called a formula. And usually formulas are based on what's the contents of other cells, but you could also just use this as a calculator. I could just type it in like that, and then it's going to give me an answer. Okay. Formulas are going to come in really handy. Now, another thing to know is, and this goes along with formulas, is when you press the equal sign, you don't have to necessarily be interested in calculating a bunch of numbers. In the usual way, you can use functions. So for example, we have in Excel, there's the average function. Just type in average, and then averages, the functions take arguments, what are called arguments. In this case, I'm going to average a bunch of numbers. I press that parenthesis. Let's say I highlight these years here. If I want to take the average of all of them, and I press enter, and it gives me the average of all of the birth years of these actors. Not that we would want that information, but that's going to prove useful in the future. Another thing that can prove useful is the sort function. So let's say I wanted to sort these actors by last name. They actually are already sorted by last name, so let's do it by first name. I can come up here to data, and I need my cursor to be somewhere in the data set. It can't be outside. As long as it's somewhere in the data set, if I press sort, and then I can sort however I want it. Let's say first name, okay, and now it just sorted it by first name, and all the cells should have sorted. If I wanted to sort by birth year, do that, and you can do smallest to largest or largest to smallest, like that. So this is just to get your feet wet with Excel. Nothing really fancy here, but you should know to review. Data really can be anything. What I mean by data is information organized in a particular way. That is, where you have cases in the rows and variables in the columns, and we're going to talk about what cases and variables, what that really means. But just quickly, cases can be almost anything, but once you have a data set, you want to have all your cases be the same sort of thing. So if I'm going to make a data set of actors, I'm not going to throw in movies in there. You're not going to suddenly just put a movie next name of a movie here. You're going to put another actor. Variables basically are things that describe cases, and variables can be the simple sociological stuff like race, class, gender. We have 2 of those variables here, but they're really infinite variety of variables. Also about Excel, Excel is conducive for data analysis because here you have the matrix and you can manipulate it in all kinds of ways. Excel, there's a learning curve. Some of the stuff won't come that easy, but if you, with a lot of work in the class, things get a lot easier as you go along. Some of the things will just become automatic. Excel is pretty powerful, and it's available in just about every office in the world. So once you really learn how to use it, it's a really good thing to put on a resume.